Welcome back to the latest episode of Five on the Floor. I am your host, Greg Sylvander. With me tonight is Alex Toledo. No Ethan Skolnick. So while the cat is away, the mice will play, I guess is how that saying goes. So tonight's floor plan. No, hold on the floor plan. Let's go straight to a guts check. Oh, are you serious? The Heat have shot over 40% from three games consecutively. Is Bam Adebayo finding his stride? Did Tyler Herro look a lot better tonight? Did he look polished? Did he look confident? Did he make enough shots? Goran Dragic is looking a little bit better. Slowly but surely, we're seeing it. Jimmy rounding into form. I'm feeling good. I feel like this was a game where we saw Spo bring out the playoff lineup, and you can see where Iguodala would sub for KZ. This team is primed for a run. I think they're going to go 10-4 at least, maybe even 11-3. I am picking up steam. I am pumping the sunshine, as they've said on Twitter. This was a back-to-back defensive dominant efforts, and have the guts to see it through with this team. They're getting into a 4 or 5 seed. And let's do this. We got a white hot playoff run coming really, really soon. But let's get to tonight's episode. So back to your regularly scheduled programming. The Miami Heat ended up really routing the San Antonio Spurs 107-87 in San Antonio, a place Miami rarely wins, led by Bam Adebayo. This dude was just killing it. Alex, you are much better at this X's and O's stuff. So I'm going to lean on you heavy when we get into what Spo did defensively tonight, because I feel like he really switched some things up that was super interesting to watch. But let's start with Bam, and we're going to touch on Herro too. Just seeing Bam, like, it felt like he shot more than 12 times, right? Like this was a Bam game.
This is absolutely a Bam game. I will say, though, he shot exactly 12 times. So he ended up 8 of 12 for the night. But I love what we saw from him there. Like, I just think he was more decisive as a scorer, like we wanted to see. And you know how it is with Bam. Like, he has these games where he puts it together on the offensive end. You're like, wow, he's really showing that potential. Like, he's getting the buckets in all the different ways, including on his own, right? Which I think is what you want to see. You want to see the variety. And, like, you want to see him put together these games consecutively. But to see him just, they're starting to come a little bit more often. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's on that right trajectory. And I what he does on defense, like, we don't even got to talk about it really because it's that obvious. But it's just, he is a monster. He is a monster on the defensive end as it is. And for him to be putting it together on offense, it gets me really excited. He looks really confident with the jumper when guys like step back a little bit off of him. And I just think they're really coming together, especially that starting group. I just think like they really found something there, especially on the defensive end. They have really good chemistry together, and I just think that group has it all figured out. And Jimmy and Bam rounded out at the top, and they're both at the top of their game right now. So like I can't match the amount of guts. I don't have that. I can't match it there. That analytic, you got me beat there after what you did, but I'm excited, man. Like I still feel pretty good about this team, even though they're so inconsistent. Like we're back in that theme. They lost a few and now they won right back and won 3 in a row. It's like a cryptocurrency that makes you nervous every every other day, right? It's just up and down, just up and down. But look, man, they're putting stuff together that I think matters, including Bam putting it together, and I just think it's a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, the defensive stuff has happened all year, but the way it's happened in the last couple games has just been suffocating in a way that I just feel like it's like they've revved up the intensity, even when Jimmy and Bam weren't out there. And to see the team whole tonight, to your point, like it has been up and down. And I'm hope trafficking, and that's widely known, and that's just the lane that I like to stay in. But I I think that if this season has told us anything, it's to expect the worst in terms of them going up and down, up and down. But with now 13 games left, I just feel like this is the moment where they're going to be led by Bam and Jimmy on a consistent basis. And if they just get guys like Tyler Herro, and this is where I want to go next, there's been loud noises nationally about Tyler Herro. Ethan, he referenced something on a podcast with Ira, and we're not going to delve into much of that, but we were interested to see how he was going to step up tonight. And, initially he looked a little hesitant, but he still was poised and getting, he didn't make any big mistakes and things like that. And then he really got going. Alex, what did you think of Tyler's performance coming back?
And it's been a little while since we've seen that Tyler. I think he looked like ultra confident out there, which is what you want to see from him. And again, talking about guys being decisive with their shot, that's exactly what Tyler was tonight. Like you saw him, especially once he started going. I mean, once he started getting going there, especially towards the end of the game, like he was just firing off whenever he had the shot. And I wish we would see more of that from Tyler. I was saying recently that I just think he needs to take more threes in general. I know I've said that at other times throughout this season, but I just think like that was his biggest strength when you drafted him. And although he's really good at operating in the mid range and coming off a curl and making stuff happen from there, he's gotten better at that since being a rookie. I like, again, mixing it up. I just think if he could play a little bit more outside in instead of from the mid range out to the three, is from three to mid range. That's kind of how I would like Tyler to grow into his shot profile a little bit, just because like I love what he has in the mid range game and how comfortable he is there. Where if you get run off there, you got that. But if you're looking for it too much, it becomes a little bit predictable. And I just think like coming off the catch, you see a little bit of opening, you take that three. And I think for sure Spo, encourages him, but I just don't think it's in that same degree that they encourage Duncan to fire every single time. And so I like that Tyler was just a lot more decisive with the jumper today, wasn't hesitating as much, and he really got that confidence going. I think he needed this game.
I love that you bring up this whole dynamic of his shot profile in the mid range versus getting it a little deeper. Shout out to Chef Trilly, who once compared Tyler Herro on Twitter to Rip Hamilton, which I thought was a really interesting player comp to make. And that was recent. But you're right. Like when he goes 5 from 6 for 3, it also just does something to him from a swagger perspective that's not quantifiable. And I know a lot of people will probably cringe when they hear me talk about that kind of stuff. But with him, I just feel like there's a confidence factor that's undeniable. And we saw it tonight. So all good things there. When we come back from the break, I want to get in more to what we saw on defense, and then since we saw playoff rotations in this game, we're going to talk about the playoff implications as it relates to the standings with a couple updates. Welcome back. So in this portion of the episode, I really wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive on what we saw from the team tonight. Really in both games, but particularly against San Antonio with the defense, because I felt like the zone was almost to me, I know that they played it for stretches, but it almost felt like a fake zone. Like they were just like fake, like almost like faking them out. I can't even really articulate it. Alex, you're probably better at this than me. Like, what exactly did you see from Spo in the way that he mixed up the defensive schemes throughout the game?
So I don't remember at what point exactly he started using the zone, but he definitely brought it out a lot more this game than we've seen in recent stretches. We obviously saw a lot of it last year, and I think it's kind of been, in and out of the coverages this year, especially after trade deadline when you kind of got more of those defensive pieces that you needed. I think we've seen it less. So it was cool to see that they're still good at it. I thought they did a really good job executing it tonight, including the guards. Like Kendrick looked really comfortable there. I thought Tyler and Goran are as active as they can be. And by the way, just all the guards in general tonight were pretty damn good, even though not all of them shot as great as Tyler. That like I've said in other episodes, it tends to be the theme that one of them is hotter than the rest. But I just think overall, as like complete, playing on both ends of the floor, they did a really good job. But and so what their zone is so aggressive and weird because like you saw that at some points they were starting off with like a full court press, and then it would turn into it was like a full court press where it was a 2-2-1 zone. Obviously, the two are all the way at the top of the other side of the court. And then
that's why I had trouble tracking it. Exactly.
Yeah, and then once they would flow back into a half court defense, it became a regular 2-3. But then the weird quirk that they've been doing for a while now is that they have the guys on the edge of the zone, the two guys on the corners helping like aggressively. Like they'll leave the corner open, which I think is kind of one of the reasons you see some of these open looks. But I just think they did a really good job of like executing the zone and coming back out to contest whenever those threes were there. And so, it's one of those things where there's so much variance with 3-point shooting that maybe on another night a team might carve it up if they get hot from three. But I just think in general the Heat didn't let them get hot, which is kind of important. And the threes fell for them tonight. And I just hope like they get a lot of confidence from this type of win, because it's like, damn, this is what we could be. This is what we should be. I just think like that's how I look at them. I just know for sure that they look at themselves as that type of team, and I'm just glad to see them put it together like that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. It's like the defenses came through and we kind of thought this would be an offensive season. And now when Jimmy and Bam are back on the floor and firing on all cylinders, Duncan didn't have a particularly impressive game, but they're scared as hell that he's about to. And Kendrick Nunn, and back to your point about the guards on defense, like he competed tonight and he stayed in front of guys and he didn't have easy matchups. So definitely want to shout him out there, and it'll be interesting to see as they get into the playoffs, provided everything goes well, knock on wood, that how Spo deploys that whole trapping scheme and the gambling that's associated with it in a playoff series. And speaking of playoffs, this is where I want to go next. I'm going to read a tweet by a friend of our program and the co-host of the Dunker Spot podcast, Steve Jones Jr. tweeted tonight, "I'll say it. If the Knicks can stay in the 4-5 matchup, they are getting out of the first round. Those offensive stretches give me pause, but I don't think you want to see them in a playoff series." The Knicks have kind of had the team profile that the Heat maybe expected to have this season, it seems, in some kind of weird way. I don't know that that's going to be sustainable. Alex, are you buying what Steve Jones Jr. is saying about the Knicks there in the 4-5 matchup? I mean, just to update the standings, the Knicks beat Atlanta tonight. Trae Young did get injured in the game. So we'll see how quickly he can get back on the court. Hopefully it's soon. But now the Knicks are in the 4 spot. And the Heat can still catch them, but the Knicks are playing really well. Are you at all flinching at a New York matchup?
I mean, if you're talking about it from a Heat perspective, no, I'm definitely not. Like, and we've been making Knicks jokes as Heat fans forever and ever, right? Especially since they've just been so incompetent for the past couple of decades for the most part. But no, I want to give them respect. I'm going to give them some respect for the team, the season that they've put together. It's been just a downright competent one, right? Like nothing too crazy, but they've just been hovering around and kind of been over 500 for a little while now. I mean, they've had a solid ass defense. Like I'm looking at it right now. They're 4th in the league in defensive rating. So that sounds about
that
right.
Tibbs effect is crazy, man.
Yeah, and they're in the 21th on offense. So that sounds about right, because I look at their roster and, especially with Tibbs, like you said, and it just doesn't have the profile of a really good offensive team. But Julius Randle, like that guy just took a huge leap. It's not looter and a riot stuff. Obviously, they empowered him and kind of using him as their best scoring playmaker, which I think is different from how he's been used in the past. But he just has a way better 3-point stroke. Like he gets to it off the bounce now. He's obviously a really strong player. He's really good at getting to the basket and drawing fouls. He's even playing like really good defense. I just think the team as a whole is just solid, right? The Knicks are cool. I'm not afraid of them if I'm the Heat. Like there's no shot. There's absolutely no shot you can get me to say, right, that the Heat should be afraid of them. I mean, they can push the Heat. That's for damn sure, especially if you're talking about a first round series without Oladipo and you're just kind of playing on the margins and both teams. I mean, look, that I wasn't old enough to watch those series, but that might be kind of reminiscent of the old 90s Heat Knicks series, man, because both teams just struggling to score and just defending their asses off. Like that would be a competitive series. But look, the Knicks might they could beat the Celtics. They could beat the Hawks.
Right? No, and like
I just like throwing that Celtics slander there, but I just want to say they're formidable.
at any moment we can throw in Celtics slander, we are going to sneak it in. But that Knicks Heat matchup, if it became 4-5, would be really intriguing. I feel like it would rejuvenate that rivalry a little bit, and that is much needed. I think that the NBA is better if the Heat and the Knicks are good. I guess that's just my biased opinion. And you're right, it would be an old school series. It would be a low scoring, grinded out kind of matchup. So let's hope for that. I want to quickly, because we saw Spo really get down to his playoff rotation. Like, when I talked about this being a Bam game against San Antonio tonight, had they had to play the starters the full game, Bam was like trending towards a 40, burger. Like he was balling. So like because they had to pump the brakes late there. Do I think that he didn't have to, necessarily push as much? But you look ahead in the schedule. They're at Atlanta on Friday. No Trae Young. He's not going to play this soon after what happened tonight. Back to back with Chicago, San Antonio again, which they've proven they can beat. Cleveland, Charlotte, Dallas, Minnesota, Boston twice. And then Philly, Milwaukee, Detroit. I'm running through that quickly just so that we have some frame of context. To me, like all of those games seem winnable to me. So, Alex, I'm putting you on the spot. Where are the Heat finishing this season? On May 17th, what seed will they be?
This feels like they're gonna end up in the fifth seed again. I don't know why. I have no like mathematical reasoning behind that. Not any type of breakdown of their schedule versus any other team's schedule. For some reason, I've just felt this season like they're gonna finish like a fifth seed, and it still feels like they're on that trajectory, right? Just going up and down all season, and it feels like they're just gonna end up in that same exact seed that they were last year when they ended up getting to the finals as a fifth seed. And you know what? That's exactly what I want. Obviously, a fourth is preferred, right? Fourth seed is preferred, but you like home court advantage. But I just think they need to get into that 4 or 5 bracket there because I think you want to avoid potentially drawing Milwaukee or Brooklyn in the second round, especially Brooklyn, even with their health concerns. I just think Philly is probably, and this is just my opinion, and you know me, I'm gonna talk down on the Sixers. I just think they're the easier of the three. If you're talking about a Heat second round matchup versus one of those top 3 teams in the East, I think they have the best shot at the Sixers. And look, I just think they need to get there because this team is not right. Like this is not some team that's been elite all year, and you could just kind of guarantee wins, right? Like they need to get to that 4 or 5 matchup, but just make it as easy as themselves on possible, like as possible. Like you might be able to draw the Knicks, you might be able to draw the Hawks. Like these teams, like I've said, are competent. They're not terrible like they have been for the past couple of seasons, but those are the teams you want in the first round. All right.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I mean, we're not scared of any of those teams. And as you look at the rest of the schedule, like when you have like this 2 game set with Chicago and both of them are in Miami, you got to get both of those damn games. You have a back-to-back set at Cleveland, at Charlotte. As well as Charlotte's played, you got to get those games because Dallas is going to come to town. You've got 2 games in Boston to close out the season, which is just a product of this season. So that's going to be weird. So it's going to be interesting to see how they jockey for position because I do think the 4 or 5 matchup is the most favorable for them. And
To me, even if you get Boston, it is.
yeah,
Even if, which obviously is the least the one you want least, but still, like, give me that.
yeah, no, I'm with you. And also, now with this James Harden news, I'm kind of inclined to think you think Philly ends up in that one spot. So that's why you're trending on that 4 or 5 matchup.
Yeah, they've been there, and the Nets have their health concerns. I don't know. I don't know. I hope they stay there, and I hope that's where the Heat can end up. Like the Nets thing is interesting, right? Because if they just had these health concerns, like this whole time, ever since Harden got traded there, they've played what, like 7, 10 games together in total. So that's definitely a question. I don't want them in the second round, regardless.
Yeah, no, I tweeted that about the 7 games that they played together, and somebody was like, "Well, it's been even less with that with Oladipo in Miami," and I had no reply for that. But I'm with you. Like, let's
Yeah.
eliminate the Knicks, and then eliminate the Sixers, and then eliminate the Nets, and then see where we get. And
There you
that's how
go.
I'm feeling to end tonight. Thank you for listening. We will be back the rest of the week with episodes, pre games, post game shows. You know the drill. Thank you for listening.